cry. It's been so long since I've seen you.
I know. Since 2008.
2008.
Yes.
I left you in Greece, and it was like, and then the program was done, and now here we are.
I know. Oh, it's lovely to see you.
You too. Oh my God, I wish we were in Greece right now, although we can't get there at the moment.
Not right now.
Just because I have like a million questions to ask you, and I literally have been waiting all week for this. And it's like, it's only Thursday, and usually my lives are on Wednesday, and I was so excited about tonight. So, okay, everyone, thank you for joining. It is week 15 that the Integrative Wellness Collective has been going, and I've been bringing on some of the most amazing women that have inspired me along my journey of wellness and health, and it's really for me to be inspired by other women and to give them a platform to really shine their light and be the amazing practitioners that they are. And, you know, Dorene, when I was thinking about who I wanted on this broadcast, it was like, it was a no-brainer. Like you came up in my brain, and I was like, oh my God, you inspired me on so many levels during that trip, and obviously during the aromatherapy program at your college. But I just wish more people would know about aromatherapy and learn about it. And I'm bringing you on tonight so that you can make some clarifications, because I think so many people think they know about it, but really the nuances of it can bring them more health and wellness, in my opinion. So everyone, Dorene is not only the founder and president, right? Founder and president of the American College of Healthcare Sciences, but she's also a master aromatherapist, and that's actually how we met. Dorene teaches classes for her college and leads study abroad programs in Greece, India, and Indonesia. And back in 2008, I was blessed and lucky enough, and I'm not sure how many classes you've taken back to Greece, but I studied with Dorene, and she brought me to her home with a few other people in our class that taught us you made me want to go to Greece and study with her. You should go to Greece and study with her. Absolutely, you should. So Dorene showed me the art of distillation, which was something that, you know, we don't ever think about when we buy a bottle of essential oils. And it gave me so much respect for the plant and so much respect for plant medicine that, and just the lifeblood of the plant, the essence of the plant. And coming back from Greece was a real shift for me. So I want to start out by asking you your backstory and how you wound up becoming in love with plant medicine, and how you learned it, how you studied it, and then eventually how did you become a teacher and a leader in this field?
Well, Bianca, thank you very much for having me on tonight. This is really exciting. Lovely to see you after all this time. So, and you know, I welcome everybody. I can see all the names coming up on the screen, but of course I can't see anybody. So hi. So yeah, so I started out really falling in love with plants as a child. I mean, I grew up in a family that was very plant oriented. You know, we went off gathering plants together as a family. My grandmother had me out in the fields helping her dig up dandelion and yellow dock, and you know, we would brew it up, and she would give us all a dose of whatever it was she was brewing, clearly tonics. And as I sort of got into my teenage years, I was really interested in ethnobotany and traditional cultures and how they used plants for medicine. And I studied ethnobotany and archaeology at Otago University in Dunedin, New Zealand. And then when I graduated, I ended up working as a medical social worker, which was a real eye-opener for me. I was primarily focused on really disadvantaged elderly population, and it became really clear to me that a lot of the issues I was seeing amongst the elderly out in the community were degenerative diseases, really as a result of a lifestyle that just hadn't been focused on wellness prevention most of their lives. And I felt that I really had to delve more into that arena. So I went back to college and did a 4-year naturopathic program, and subsequently from that, in my last year of that program, I was asked to start the herbal medicine department for that college. It was the South Pacific College of Natural Therapeutics in Auckland, in New Zealand, and I did that, and then began my clinic. And so, I was very involved in clinical work, one-on-one with clients, and part-time running this department for the college I graduated from. And then finally, they decided to actually close that department. They were going through some accreditation with a British osteopathic college. And so they said, well, you started it, it's yours, you're welcome to it, you take it. So, I was more concerned about the students we had, that there weren't many, but I felt like I was very responsible for those students and their success. So I wanted to keep it going. So that's really how I started with the college. And then also doing clinical work, I realized that, wellness is only as effective as somebody is compliant. So if somebody's not really going to be doing it, then, because it's what we do every day, if somebody isn't actively going to be really involved in it, it really is not going to work out. So for me, I spend a lot of time educating people. I really am a great believer in that, you can give somebody a fish to eat if they're hungry, but if you teach them to fish, they're never going to be hungry again, right? So that was sort of my philosophy going forward, and I got more and more into developing the programs, and here we are 40 something years later. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. I love the fact that you're also a woman and that you founded a college, and it's just so inspiring. It's amazing. So tell us about the word aromatherapy, because the layperson that knows nothing about it thinks it's about pheromones. I've heard that before. And I'm like, well, no, maybe pheromones of a plant. But so tell us about aromatherapy, and, it's everywhere, right? So we see it in the beauty industry. We see it in shampoos. We unfortunately see it in synthetic plug-ins. And, can you tell us exactly and you're not speaking to me, you're speaking to everyone out there that really doesn't understand, what exactly is an essential oil? And why is it called essential?
Really good questions. I mean, an essential oil is it's the volatile constituents that are found within some plants, not every plant, and found within different parts of a plant. So, that's what's very interesting about essential oils, is they can be in the flowers, they can be in the leaves, they can be in the roots, they can be in the and valerian. Bark is like cinnamon. So it just really depends where the plant stores those volatile constituents, and how we actually can access them. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing really that mysterious about an essential oil. It's just the volatile, and volatile means it evaporates. Mm-hmm. So volatile just means the minute it is exposed to oxygen, it will start to disperse into the atmosphere. So it evaporates. And whereas if you were to take the lid off a bottle of olive oil, it wouldn't do the same thing. It's not volatile. But if you take the lid off a bottle of lavender essential oil and leave it without its lid on the counter, you're going to be smelling lavender, because those constituents that are volatile will just start rising up into the atmosphere. So aromatherapy is really, it can be as broad or a definition, or it can be a very limited definition. But in my mind, the therapy of aromas is really based on inhalation, and really that can come in many ways. I mean, it doesn't, you can even be like out in a garden and inhaling volatile constituents from plants as you brush by them. But the most incredible thing to me about aromatherapy is that it's the only wellness modality that impacts both the psychological and the physiological body at the same time. It is the only modality that can take you back to a memory that might have been 40 years ago, and you will be right there with it. The other interesting thing about aromatherapy is each individual is unique. So Bianca, how you relate to lavender might not be the way I relate to lavender. And it may even have a different physiological reaction, because what we have discovered is that the way you perceive, i.e. the psychological perception of an aroma, is going to impact and does impact the way the physiological body responds. So when you inhale an aroma, this whole cascade of events occurs. Once the hypothalamus, the major gland, is involved, just this entire cascading of endocrine and various other things occur in the body. So it's a very powerful modality.
Well, they say that olfaction is the oldest sense, correct? I believe that's the case. Smell is one of the oldest sense that we have. So in the hierarchy of the brain?
Yeah, I believe that is true. And, we're only discovering now, in this very difficult time that we all find ourselves in. I mean, who would have thought we would have been, living at a time when we experience a global pandemic? But what is interesting right now is that the particular illness that we're all dealing with has really left a lot of people without smell. And and in a way, this has brought a huge awareness to how important smell is to our general well-being and to our health. But not to get too much off topic, but I'm very pleased to see that there are ways to improve the sense of smell once it's lost, because of that particular illness. So
with essential oils?
Yes, with essential oils, yes, because really two things. First of all, the nerves that are destroyed in the olfactory system by the illness. It seems that research is telling us it's not the trigeminal nerve, which is really great. The nerves that are impacted can regenerate. And what they're finding is that if people actively practice almost like a physiotherapy for olfaction, so, take
breathing techniques.
So take, for example, 5 oils. You'd probably want to have peppermint because it stimulates the trigeminal nerve. You'd probably want to have something like lavender, and I would think maybe a sage, one of the sages, and maybe some bergamot, and maybe even cinnamon, and actively practice smelling those every day. The olfactory system will improve. So it's just like using a muscle.
Fascinating.
So
it reminds me of a study I once read, this was years ago, that they were like the smell of cookies being baked brings back this whole emotion of being a child, and it could really bring like this happiness and joy, and it makes you feel good. And it changed. I think they did this in either an assisted living home or something to help the elderly actually feel better. And there was a significant shift for them when they were smelling this, because it brought them back to their childhood when things felt safe and things felt happy and things felt good. So absolutely, just the scent in and of itself. And I remember when I was with you in Greece, you had us make geranium. I think it was something with geranium, and I hate geranium, by the way. It has like a visceral reaction for me, and it makes me nauseous. I actually get like cotton in my mouth. It doesn't do well for me. Valerian does the same thing, and it's really interesting what happens when you have that connection of scent that maybe doesn't stimulate something happy. But then you have something where you have a stimulation of something really happy and all you want to do is smell it. So I thank you for that information on getting your olfaction back, because that's something that I haven't heard of and I might actually try with some of my patients. That's phenomenal. And I'm wondering if it has to do with also the volatility of the oils, because we know that there's volatility where you've got your citrus oils that kind of dissipate really quickly, and then your heavier and denser oils like your frankincense or sandalwood or things like that are heavier. It's fascinating. So let's go into this idea of the word natural because it's found everywhere, and it's found in our packaging, in our food packaging, and obviously there's like 1,000 different essential oil companies out there that signify this natural scent. How do you know the difference between a synthetic and a natural oil?
That's a great question. And really, a lot of that does come with experience and just smelling a lot of different oils. But rather than just smelling an oil, what I would really recommend viewers to focus on are using all of your organoleptic senses. So you want to actually feel the oil. That's really important. Now, when I say feel an oil, you would put some on your hand and just sort of do this with your fingers. Now, if an oil is really a true essential oil, the majority of oils are going to feel light. They're going to evaporate quickly. They're going to dry down fairly quickly. So you're not going to have like a greasy, slick feeling on your fingers. If it's potentially, if it is diluted or cut with something that it shouldn't be, and you've bought it as a true natural oil, although I don't really use the word natural when it comes to oils, it shouldn't feel like that. It shouldn't feel oily. So that's really a good test to do. I mean, the other things you can do are like drop an oil onto a little bit of like a blotter paper or a perfume strip, and just see how it spreads on the paper and how quickly it dissipates. I mean, some oils will not dissipate quickly, volatilize out quickly, because as you mentioned, they are denser. We talk about them as base notes. They've got more complex constituents. So less of the alcohols, which are light and tend to fly off fairly quickly. They've got more of the diterpenes and sesquiterpenes and denser, very complex, heavier, very complex constituents. So the other thing I think is, you just really have to trust your supplier. We focus particularly on certified organic and pesticide-free essential oils because of the focus of using essential oils as a wellness medicine, really. And it's something we want to include in our lives, and we want to ensure that by using the essential oils, we're not also taking in a lot of pesticides. This is a problem in today's world. I mean, we know that the world is contaminated with a multitude of pesticides, and essential oils are also part of the issue when it comes to that. So that's our focus. But I think just trusting your supplier, having really buy by the Latin name. That's important. Make sure you use Latin names. because we know that lavender essential oil can be called lavender, but it can come from a number of different varieties, which have very different constituent profiles. So, you know, one particular species of lavender could have a lot of camphor, so it would be very stimulating, whereas we tend to think of lavender as being very calming, very sedative. But having said that, if somebody initially, when they smelled lavender for the very first time, had a negative experience, from that time on, lavender to them, just like you and your geranium, would not have a sedative effect, even if it was the correct variety.
Of course, right.
So that's why, you know, it's just really important to I think it's important to do a little education. And, you know, safety is another really major issue, because there's a lot of potential out there for unsafe practices with essential oils.
You know, it brings me back to you taught a class when we were with you in Greece. I believe the name of the class was "What Scent Is This?"
Yeah.
And you gave us, I don't remember if it was like a baggie or maybe some sort of jar, and you had us all try to identify what was synthetic lavender versus what was organic, you know, real lavender. We all flunked, I remember, because we had an association of the synthetic lavender as being the lavender that we're familiar with smelling. And you had mentioned that, you know, when you go to the supermarket, or when you go buy deodorant, or when you go buy laundry detergent, and everything is a lavender scent, it is all this synthetic lavender. So we've almost adapted our olfaction to familiarize ourselves with that particular scent of lavender. So then when you made us smell real lavender, we were pretty turned off by it, because it didn't smell like what we thought lavender should smell like. It was a fascinating, very eye-opening experience, for sure. So I think for everyone out there, it's, you know, it's just an interesting concept, right? To smell. And is it Stoches that it smells very
Ambracious.
Yeah. It was very camphor-like. It was not your typical lavender smell. Yeah, and I mean, there's hundreds of species of types of these plants that we create oils or essential oils from. It's just so interesting. So then how, besides perfume scents, right? Because when you think about how, like, the perfumeries in France in the 1700s, 1800s using these scents, you know, and you see a lot of these synthetic perfume fragrances now, they don't really have real essential oils in them. Many of them are synthetic, cut with alcohols. What are some of the therapeutic usages one could use with an essential oil?
Well, you know, I mean, essential oils, depending on the plant, depending on the oil, have, you know, a very wide range of therapeutic applications. I think one of the most common application is definitely for, you know, inflammation and, you know, mild infections and things like that can be very effective. I mean, there's a lot of research, a lot of papers out there to show the efficacy of essential oils, using essential oils to combat.
There's tens of thousands of PubMed articles, tens of thousands of them.
Yeah, pretty common bacteria and you know, even some viruses. So there's a lot of research out there now on that. And if you go to the ACHS website, I have compiled a couple of commentaries on a variety of research collections that, you know, if viewers are interested, it can really help you understand the complexity and the potential for therapeutic use of essential oils. But, you know, in everyday use, which is what we're really talking about, because, you know, it really is just nice to use essential oils, not just sort of have them on the shelf and look at them and not use them. They can be used all around your house. I mean, essential oils are great in the laundry. they're great to add to like a wet cloth and put it in your dryer. So, you know, instead of a artificially, yes, instead of an artificially fragranced dryer cloth, use an essential oil.
I have the wool balls, you know, the wool
yeah,
balls, and I put oils on the balls and I throw them into my dryer instead of using the synthetic sheets.
Yeah, I love that idea. And then, you know, you can even put essential oils into your washer, just a few drops. I mean, eucalyptus oil has been shown to be very effective for bed bugs.
For bed bugs.
Yes, and you can use essential oils, of course, for cleaning. And you know what I think is really exciting is, you know, we talked about, you know, how potentially when we were together in 2008, potentially the majority of products out there were in fact using synthetic or, you know, nature identical versions of an essential oil. Whereas now a lot of products really are using essential oils in the product. So there's a lot of cleaning products out there that are really well made, that have great, you know, great blends, great essential oils in them. So, and as far as, you know, like everyday therapy for your state of mind, I mean, they can help to calm you, they can help to sedate you, they can also stimulate, they can help a lot with feelings of, you know, just feeling down and like you can't cope. And, you know, if you're feeling really sluggish, an essential oil can help with that. I particularly like I take at least 3 or 4 essential oil baths a week. I love using essential oils in the bath. And I also use essential oils in the shower. So when I shower in the morning, I'll have a variety of essential oils that I choose from, and I'm usually choosing something that's stimulating in the morning. So for me, that's something like peppermint, rosemary. I love using sage in the shower.
And how do you use it? Do you like put it on the floor?
I just sprinkle a little bit on the floor. I mean, you can get more involved and make, you know, fizzing bombs and all that sort of thing, but I don't have time. So I just sprinkle it on the shower floor and I let the water run down, and it just diffuses it volatiles up into the shower stall. And the other thing I like to do is wet a washcloth, and I put essential oils on that, and, you know, just use that to inhale. Yeah, eucalyptus is in the shower too. Yeah. So yeah, so
that's wonderful.
So I mean, really, the therapeutic applications are extensive.
Yeah. You know, I think a lot of times people look at essential oils and they just become so overwhelmed because there's so many of them. Yeah. And that, you know, you've got these giant encyclopedias that tell you exactly what to use them, what the therapeutic usages are, and how to combine them. But then it can go and go and go. So, yeah, you know, I always say, like, what resonates with you right now? Like, what are you digging at the moment? What do you want to smell? Because that, again, it's that psychological component that goes with your olfaction that's going to make you feel better. If it makes you feel better, you got decreased inflammation. You've got happier thoughts. You can down-regulate your sympathetic nervous system, so you're in a space of more of rest and digest. It's so, I think it's such a personalized type of medicine in a way, right? That you can really personalize it for yourself. So
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, most essential oils are steam distilled using exactly what you talked about, a distillation unit, which I'm not sure if your viewers have seen, but basically what you are doing is putting the material into a vessel. Depends on the botanical, really, how you're going to specifically handle it. Each plant is different. The essential oil cells that hold the essential oil within the plant are all going to be found in different locations within the plant itself. So, for example, eucalyptus, we talked about that in the shower. The eucalyptus cell where the essential oil is quite deep in the actual leaf, but something like rosemary or lavender is on a very long cell. Of course, you know, you can't see this with the naked eye, but if you look at it under a microscope, it's called a trichome, and the cell is long and the essential oil globule sits on top of that. So that really makes a difference as to whether you're going to add water with the vessel or whether you're going to have it sitting on top of the water. Now, I am not a distillation expert, but, you know, I've done enough distillation, and I've also worked a lot with my husband, Robert Seidel, who really is a distillation expert,
Yeah.
and he's distilled essential oils all over the world. But what you're basically doing is you're breaking down those cells that contain the essential oil, and you want that to release into the steam. And it doesn't dissolve in the steam. The steam kind of captures it and holds it. And as the steam comes up out of the still and through that, what's called the condenser, where it cools down, it turns back into water and essential oil. And now the essential oil might lay on top, or the essential oil might drop to the bottom, because it depends on something called specific gravity of the oil, which is really the weight of the oil compared to the weight of water. So kind of a simplified description of explanation of what that is. And then, you know, it's just a matter of getting the essential oil out of the water, and that's usually done with a separator. So there's a variety of ways. There's either complete steam distillation or there's water steam distillation. But of course, you know, plants, like most things, you can never just generalize and say this is the way it's going to be done for everything. Some plants do not actually relinquish their essential oils to steam. So when you think about something like jasmine or something like honeysuckle, these are plants that have to be extracted using a solvent. So they're extracted by actually soaking the botanical in a solvent like benzene or hexane, and then that once the volatile material is captured in the solvent is put through a volatilizing process where it evaporates off, and you're left with usually what's a solid material, which is called a concrete, because it contains fats and waxes and things like that. And then they usually distill that again and take off just the essential oil. Well, really the absolute it's called. So there's a variety of different ways depending on the plant, and the skill of the distiller is knowing how each plant is really going to perform as far as extraction goes. And you know, it's just fascinating, the different types of equipment. And of course now with you know, really advancements in technology, there's a number of really different ways to distill now, and a lot of different equipment. It's fascinating. So from the time it comes from the harvest to the actual still to the bottle, you know, it's a long journey. It's a long supply chain. The majority of essential oil plants are harvested by women in very difficult and arduous conditions. They're generally very poorly paid. I have traveled all over the world, and you know, I've been, and primarily with a focus to going to where these essential oils are grown and harvested. So I've seen jasmine harvesting at, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning. I've harvested with the jasmine harvesters, the women who were harvesting. I was worked alongside them to see how it felt like, and how slow it is. And you know, and it's very skilled too, because you can only pick the flower. If you have leaf in your material, the quality of the oil is reduced, and the price the harvesters paid is reduced subsequently. The same with harvesting rose. It's a very arduous job. Women in Turkey walk along the rose, often on steep hillsides, with big baskets tied to their bodies, and they're plucking just the flower. And I also tried that. I trailed along behind these poor women. I'm sure I slowed them down. And, you know, and ended up with thorns and prickles and cuts. But, you know, they were just so skilled at it that they were able to do it. In parts of Indonesia where they harvest vetiver, because they're harvesting the roots, and the vetiver it's a very large grass that's very difficult to get out of the ground. And so they're furiously harvesting all these roots, and the women are gathering them and bundling them, and they tie them into these huge bundles, and then basically put a strap around their heads and have this big bundle on their back. I literally could not even pick it up. And then they carry those down the hillside, which is, you know, a good hour's walk, to the waiting truck on the road, and then the truck takes it off to the distillery. So, I mean, you know, what I really want viewers to appreciate is that behind every bottle of oil is a tremendous amount of hard work, physical labor, hard work, farmers who don't get paid much, harvesters who get paid extremely little. And, you know, so yeah, I open a bottle of oil and I'm always like in awe, and I try and have a lot of presence of mind when I'm working with essential oils, just really thanking the plant and thanking the people who got it to us. So it's an amazing product.
I mean, that's what we did with you in Greece, right? I mean, you know, you strapped us in with these sheets. You gave us our cutting shears, right? You took us in a bus to the side of the mountain, and I mean, Greece is very hot, right? So it was like 100 degrees, and we're slathered in, you know, sunscreen and big hats, and we're picking helichrysum. And I'll never, I think I have just such an affinity for helichrysum because I labored to experience that.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being in this helichrysum and bringing it to my nose and saying, it just smelled like sweet curry. That's what it smelled like to me at the moment, right? And then I remember we brought it back, and we were so tired. We were out there for hours. From my memory, probably we were only out there for probably an hour, but it seemed so laborious that it seemed like the whole day, right? So I can only imagine. Amazing. I experienced this too with argan oil. And I had gone and seen the women go into the argan forest and pick up the nuts and you know, be there grinding everything and create it. It gives you such an appreciation for the things that we use on a daily basis, and it's just you know, close to godliness, the plants and the nuts and the seeds and all of it. So so my next question to you is, you know, most people know about using essential oils through a diffuser, right? I mean, that's like everyone could buy a diffuser now on Amazon. And is there a special way that you find the best way to diffuse an essential oil? Because some people put them in burners, and you know, I'm like, I don't, you know, I don't. I use obviously a water diffuser, but what's your take on that, and what do you experience with that?
Well, I think diffusing is a wonderful way to administer essential oils, because as you inhale an oil, it's actually been shown, papers have shown, research has shown that inhalation is the fastest route for an essential oil to enter your bloodstream. So you don't need to put it on your body, you don't need to put it on your skin, you don't need to take oils orally, you just need to inhale them, and they're going to end up in your bloodstream pretty quickly. Plus, they're going to have the added benefit of impacting your limbic, impacting your hypothalamus, and have a psychological response as well. So diffusing, I love it. The very best diffuser is one you use. I mean, you know, I'm sure we all have a diffuser graveyard in our homes. I mean, I think I have at least 4 diffusers, and you know, I go on and off them. I use them, I don't use them.
Yep.
But I do think it's important to not use direct heat, because heat is going to impact the constituents in a negative way. And I just think it's better to, you know, like you say, use a water-based diffuser. And I also like intermittent diffusers, so a diffuser that will turn on and off intermittently, because again, we have to think about saturation. When you are in an enclosed room, it's always ideal to have a window open if you are diffusing. When you are in an enclosed room, even with a window open, and you're inhaling, they say after about 20 minutes you have reached maximum. So really, you don't want to be diffusing like for hours on end and inhaling essential oils for hours on end. 20 minutes is enough. And it's also really important too to not diffuse excessively around kids and also around animals. So yes, diffusing's great, but just with those few little caveats.
So windows open and intermittent is the key.
Yeah, for sure.
I read something too that the intermittent diffusing process is similar to being in the wild. You know, wind is happening, right? Wind comes, wind goes. Because I do know that sometimes you can have a dermatological effect to some oils. Some are caustic, you know, even something like clove could really irritate the skin. So how do you suggest that being used? Because there's a ton of body lotions and even face serums that have infusions of essential oils. So what's your take on that?
Well, topical is a great way to apply essential oil, whether it's in, you know, in a cream or a lotion or an oil. Essential oils are absorbed through the skin, because you know they are fairly small. The constituents in an essential oil are pretty small, and they're also lipophilic, so they're attracted to fat, so they are going to be absorbed. Water does help absorption, so if you're in the bath, you are absorbing through your skin, and you've got the added benefit of inhalation in the bath. But like anything, you've got to be careful. You hit the nail on the head when you said clove essential oil. If you're going to apply clove, even if it's diluted, which of course it always should be, you've got to dilute it at the right ratio, at the correct ratio, because if it's too powerful in the blend or in the diluent, you will burn your skin. You only have to try it out for yourself, and I'm not recommending this, but I've actually done it by mistake. I was on a flight coming home from Bali, and I'd eaten something that I shouldn't have. You know, I mean, I think I just ate a salad, which of course is always a no-no when you're in Asia.
Bacteria.
And developed, you know, an upset stomach. And when I was in the layover, I think I was laying over in Singapore or somewhere, I grabbed my travel kit, my essential oil travel kit, and without thinking took the cinnamon essential oil and massaged it directly into my abdomen.
Ouch.
Yeah. So yes. So of course, you know, if one does experience in that, you can take it off with milk or some other fat substance. Generally, water is not going to do it. And I mean, it is not ideal by any means. I'm not recommending anybody does that. But yes, topical's great, but you must dilute essential oils. I tend to just say, bottom line, dilute all oils, either at a 1, usually between a 1 or 3%. So the safer oils like lavender, you could definitely dilute at a 3%, but something like cinnamon, you would want at a 1%. So
reminds me of a story of a patient of mine. She was experimenting with oils, and she had come in to see me, and she lifted up her shirt and she had burn marks all over her belly. And I said, "Oh my God, what happened to you?" And she said, "I don't know. I used, I don't know, some sort of like photosensitizing oil, maybe a citrus oil." And she used it on her belly, didn't think about cutting it with an oil, wound up going to the tanning salon, and the tanning salon created such a phototoxic effect that it literally burned the skin on her belly. And I mean, that was just such an indication of how powerful these oils are. I mean, how many times do you accidentally touch an oil you have nail polish on, and it literally eats right through the nail polish? They're just so incredibly powerful. So yeah, so the topical way, and it's interesting too, because I've been using oils since, I don't know, 2004. So it's been a long time. I use them in my practice, and I have a tendency to put them on my hands, your jojoba oil, put them on my hands, and do some sort of myofascial release on my patients. And what was happening, I was using, I mean, if I'm treating 40, 50 patients a week, that's 40, 50 applications of essential oils on my hands. And what was happening is I was getting, eczematous issues, dermatitis, major irritation, and eventually I had to stop. So what I would do now is I actually give the oil to my patient with a little carrier oil so they can cut it and then have them apply it. So this way it takes me out of the equation, and I could let my hands heal. But that was my personal experience with it. So now really all I do for myself is do inhalation. I don't even like to put them on my hands anymore.
Well, that's a really good point, Bianca. So, I mean, really two things you just brought up are very important for viewers to think about. Photosensitivity is a huge issue. So, and basically that just means if you apply an essential oil that is considered to be a phototoxic oil, it's going to attract UV rays to your skin, and it can cause a lot of damage. So the majority of photosensitive oils are like your citrus oils. I think you mentioned that. And we actually put out a free white paper on this. So again, if anyone wants to go to our website, or if anybody, I'm not sure if you're going to share my email, but if anyone can't find it, just drop me an email and I can get that to you. And that will give you a list of what those oils are. But they're really important to know. And the second thing you mentioned about the practitioner and therapist really protecting themselves, really good point. Because if you're a massage therapist, or as you are an acupuncturist, you are not only handling the oils, but you're inhaling them as well at the same time. So you really have to think about your own wellness and your own safety. So really good point. So I love your solution of having your patient apply it, and also just having a window open, having some sort of free flow of air, and washing your hands. Of course, we wash our hands all the time now, wash our hands obviously between clients or immediately after using an essential oil, that sort of thing. But yeah, really good point.
Is there a certain carrier oil that you prefer, or that works better with oils that would you suggest? Or anything that works well? I actually am now having a sensitivity to coconut oil, so I can't even use coconut oil. Jojoba seems to be the best carrier oil for me at the moment. Grapeseed oil is okay because it's not so viscous. No.
Well, I personally like a base oil that absorbs easily and quickly, because if I'm going to be applying an essential oil, say for example, I've stepped out of the shower and I want to give myself an essential oil application, using a base oil or a cream. Sometimes I'll put essential oils in creams, but usually I'm using a base oil. I like camellia oil. It's from Camellia sinensis, which is the tea plant. It's what you drink cups of tea from. And the seed of that plant gives a wonderful essential oil. It's great for your face, very light, it's quickly absorbed. But there's just so many base oils out there now, and there's a lot of really unusual new base oils coming out. I love rosehip oil. I love carrot seed oil, and you can make a nice mixture using a variety of different base oils. But even your more common ones like sweet almond, apricot, those kind of oils. The most important thing is using an oil that's fresh. When an oil oxidizes, you can smell it. This is the other important thing. If you're interested in essential oils and including essential oils into your daily life, make sure you really use your organoleptic skills. So whenever you open a base oil, do the same thing, smell it. And if an oil is off, you can smell it. An oxidized sweet almond and a fresh sweet almond, they smell completely different. So you will slowly develop that organoleptic and olfactory memory for when an oil is fresh or not. The most important thing is using fresh oil, and I prefer to use oils that do not have chemicals in them to stabilize them. So I like certified organic, cold pressed if possible, so that retains a lot of the nutrients that are going to keep the oil fresh. And it's just fun to play with base oils. So
and also, though, you think about some people have allergic reactions to some things like chamomile, right?
Yes.
Or so then you have to worry about that as well. So I always say to patients, if you know what you have sensitivities to, you have to keep those out of the equation, because you can have a reaction to that as well. You can have a reaction to the base oil as well.
Absolutely. If somebody has a nut allergy, for example, they'd probably want to stay away from peanut oil or something like that. Right. So, everyone is a very unique individual. So, work with yourself. If you're seeing a practitioner, make sure that share all of that information about you, because it's very helpful.
So, does anybody have any questions for Dorene? Anything specific out there that's jumping out at you before I ask my last one? Or maybe my last one will be answer some of your questions. No one yet? All right. So, Dorene, if you mentioned taking oils with you when you go away. What's in your little pocket when you travel?
Well, when I travel, I like to take peppermint. I like to take lavender, of course. I like to take cinnamon. Cinnamon is shown to be very effective for combating E. coli infection. So,
how do you use it? Do you diffuse it, or you just smell it?
Well, usually I'm kind of a hardcore aromatherapist, so I actually take one, and I take it orally. I'm not recommending that, but there are other ways you can use it. Of course, you can inhale it, and you can also apply it topically, because it will be absorbed. I usually like to take rosemary. I love using rosemary as an application on my scalp. So I massage my head, and put the rosemary in there and then massage it. So I usually travel with about 5 or 6 oils, and then sometimes I'll just take a bag of something to give away. So I like giving away oils when I travel. You know, like if I meet people who ask me about essential oils, I'll always like to have something to give away, and I can teach them at the same time how to use it.
So this is a great question. Okay, the lost geek. I love that. So hi, Dorene and Bianca. Any concern and favorite oils to use with special needs children? So autistic, ADHD. Is there anything that we have to think of as parents or as practitioners when you have a special needs child?
You know, that's a great question. I think special needs kids can be very sensitive to smell. So I would tend to work with each child as a very unique individual, which of course, you know, we've said a lot tonight is that we're all very unique and different. So I would probably tend to, which is what I like to do with essential oils anyway, you know, work with the person and say, here's 5 oils, you know, smell these and then see how the child reacts. There's quite a few research papers out there, peer-reviewed, on the efficacy of essential oils for special needs kids. So I would highly recommend that, you know, PubMed is a great resource. And if somebody has any trouble finding those papers, I can certainly assist. But yeah, that's a great question. Very, very important to work with the person and to work with the child individually.
And this next question here says that what oils are to be avoided in a diffuser if you have a dog? And I think this also goes with cats too, because I think cats have more propensity towards not handling essential oils as well as dogs. Am I right about that? I'm not sure. I remember reading something about that.
That is my understanding also. I'm definitely not an expert as far as aromatherapy and pets are concerned. There are a number of highly trained people out there. A number of our graduates go on to work with pets and have done further studies. So it is really important. Cats, I believe, do not have the liver enzymes needed to metabolize essential oils correctly.
Right.
So I do think it's important when you diffuse to ensure that your animals, whether they're dogs or cats or even caged birds, can definitely, you know, leave the room. There's plenty of natural air coming in, lots of airflow, and that you only diffuse for a maximum of 20 minutes, which is what we talked about.
Right. That's a great point. That's a great point. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? It's 9:30. We've used enough of Dorene's brain power and her time. Everyone's good? All right. Well, you can find Dorene at her college, which is achs.edu, correct? And I'm going to have it linked in the show notes. So it'll directly link you there. But thank you so much for spending the time tonight. It's just been a pleasure. You pop in and out of my mind very many times when I open my essential oils. And like I said, helichrysum happens to be very special to me because of you. So that's kind of my special link with you. So thank you everyone for coming. Week 15, integrate your health, embrace your wellness, join the collective, and we'll be back next week. And Dorene, just really inspiration for me as an awesome female. So thank you for being you and bringing your information to me and my people.
Well, thank you, Bianca, and it's just delightful to see you again after all this time. And you know, I have very fond memories of gathering helichrysum with you and all the lovely products we made. And I also have very fond memories of our journey to Mykonos together, which I'm sure you remember. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. So and just very quickly, I want to just share that if anyone is interested in learning more about the safety of essential oils and their application, we have just launched a really great new micro credential It's called the Certified Aromatherapy Safety Professional. So it's a CASP certification. So once you get to achs.edu, if you have any questions, just shoot us an email, but we can,
yeah, and there's more. I mean, you offer so much at the college, just not even just aromatherapy, but nutrition and holistic health. And so anybody that's interested in furthering their education, please check out this achs.edu. It's a profound education, and it's run by an amazing woman. So who better to support? All right, thank you so much, Dorene. Be well.
Bye, everybody.
Take care.